Okay, I will call the meeting of the Essex Junction City Council to order for Wednesday, January 21st. First item on the agenda is any agenda additions or changes? Staff?
None from me.
Thank you. I can't see you guys yet, so appreciate that.
Yep.
All right, so we are moving on to public to be heard because there is no amendments to the agenda. And I see that Risa has her hand raised. Go ahead.
Thank you, Amber.
Sure.
Will you be taking comments when you start discussing whether or not you're going to accept postmarks for taxes, or should I say my comment now?
You can do either.
Which would you prefer?
You might as well tell us now.
Okay, thank you. It's two parts to the same thing. The first is, I hope that as this goes through, Ashley can make it clear that since the only way we're going to know when anything is postmarked anyway is if we walk into a post office and request the clerk to postmark it in front of us. Since we need to get out of our car and go inside, we might as well save the stamp and just go directly to City Hall and either walk inside or put it in the drop box, which I do regularly. My second part is I typically pay my bills through online banking. And there are times, because I can't trust that the postal system is going to get things in any sort of timely fashion, I need to come in and drop it off anyway. Again, it's not a big deal. It would be great if our city could have relationships with at least our local banks so that we could do a direct deposit from our account into yours, rather than it having to go through the postal system. I'm sorry?
Sorry, sorry, Risa. I'm just commenting. I think we allow that for utility bills already, that you can make ACH transfers to pay your water bill.
Yeah, we have direct debit.
I don't want debit. I want, when I pay through my online banking, that it is done electronically. It isn't. It is done by check now and mailed to you.
I know what you're saying.
At least that's the way it is with my bank, which is Northfield.
It's worse than that. It's not just up to the local bank. It's up to the vendor that does the bill payment, Risa. So I know East Rise, for example, uses Metavante as a vendor for that. So does Citizens. I don't know Northfield. But I have for, not for these payments, asked, hey, can you do ACH for this one? And they say we can ask, so yeah. So, yeah. So yeah, I don't know who Northfield's vendor is, but yeah, I'd ask them to ask their bill pay vendor is, the best advice I can give you.
Thank you. So it starts with the bank, not with you. Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Risa. Is there anybody in the room? Public comment?
And doesn't appear to be.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to business item 5A, which is the FY25 audit presentation. Is Bill in the room?
Coming up to the table.
I'm here. Is Jess not here? Is she
She is online.
online? All right.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, Amber, how's it going?
Good, you?
Not bad at all.
Good.
All right.
Take it away.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for having me. My name is Bill Kaiser. I'm a partner at Cattell, Brannigan and Sargent up in St. Albans, and we prepare the financial statement audit annually for the city of Essex Junction. We were on site in September this year for the audit, and I'm happy to present that it was a clean, unmodified opinion for the June 30, 2025 financials this year. Consistent with prior years, there was a single audit this year, which means if there's $750,000 of expenditures in federal funding, the city is required to go through additional testing. That threshold is actually increasing to $1 million this year, and I don't know if anything's changed over the last 6 months, but when I was talking to Jess during field work, with the Department of Transportation project with the Crescent Connector wrapped up for at least this phase, the city may not meet that $1 million threshold. So there's a possibility that there will not be a single audit next year. But anyway, the major program, as identified in the Schedule of Federal Awards in the back of the financials this year, was the Department of Transportation grant. So that was tested pretty stringently. The city this year qualified as a low-risk auditee, meaning we only had to test 20% of the grant funds, and that was the only project we needed to test due to that. The low-risk auditee, all it means is a 20% threshold versus 40% threshold. Because the city's had successful single audits in the previous 2 years, it's now deemed low risk, so you'll see that in our reporting as well. The single audit does require additional testing of how the grant funds were spent to ensure various compliance requirements were met and no inappropriate spending. Also to ensure that matching requirements, if any, depending on the grant, were also met. And during our single audit, we did not find any issues as a result of the invoices tested for that specific construction project. Also, the single audit requires more in-depth testing of the internal controls for the city. I think this was probably the first year of Jess's new internal control business policies document being put into place, and all of those controls are sound. We did not see any reason for recommendations to modify those controls, and there were no deviations in those controls in the documents that we were testing, not only in the single audit, but throughout the entire audit process. We're reviewing that. As far as the financial statements go, the format's consistent with previous years, starting out with the MD&A, which is a year-over-year comparison of the city's financial resources as prepared by management. The first section of the actual financials is government-wide financial statements. This is more consistent to a business-type entity on the accrual basis of accounting under GAAP. The taxes receivable, you'll notice, continue to grow, which is expected. This is now the third year the city's been separated under the town, and all the delinquent billings are held by the city for 3 years. The management has estimated an allowance for doubtful accounts on those delinquencies of $25,000. As auditors, we feel that is very conservative. It's only $25,000, but because of the possibility for a city to put a delinquency into tax sale, there's more of a remote likelihood that that will eventually be collected, so there's no sense in allowing for it, and any municipality, you rarely see a write-off of a bad debt for delinquencies. But that $25,000 is being offset with the receivables on this financial statement. Overall, the total gross delinquencies in 2025 are $207,000 compared to $180,000 in 2024. Again, you would anticipate the increases year over year as the city historically retains these receivables and bills the property taxes, and this being year 3, it's going up. The city continues to be in a strong cash position with cash balances at June 30, 2025 of over $16 million in the general fund. And consistent with prior years, the utility collections for the city have had significant success. And subsequent to year end, there were no issues noted that would require management to propose an allowance or us as auditors to propose an allowance to those receivables. The next set of financial statements is the fund financials. This makes up the smaller funds as well as the rolling stock fund, the capital projects fund, and the general fund of for the city. As I mentioned, the receivables in the general fund consist of the billing periods beginning in 2022. The city is required to reserve for delinquent taxes that haven't been received 60 days after year end, which is a little different from the allowance for doubtful accounts that I was talking about. There's an offsetting liability for unavailable revenues due to this 60-day rule of $99,000 that hasn't been collected. That's compared to $119,000 in 2024. And the decline year over year is more reflective of stronger collections in the first 2 months of following the fiscal year, more than a reflection of the amount of what will not be collected. That's all that is. The capital projects AR is all consistent of grant revenues due from the Department of Transportation on amounts not yet reimbursed at June 30th for the completion of the Crescent Connector, and that is all deemed collectible as of June 30th. As far as equity restrictions go, or fund balance restrictions, there's a detail on pages 29 and 30 of the footnotes in the financial statements. The city currently has a general fund balance of $3,138,000, which is a reduction from the prior year, which was just over $5 million. Of the total fund balance, the committed funds were made up of the local option tax, which has a balance currently of $1,087,000. $157,000 has been assigned by management for specific future expenditures, and $312,000 is made up of prepaid expenses and inventory that's on the balance sheet. This is non-spendable fund balance. Making up the city, the remaining unassigned fund balance is $1,581,000, which does fall below the city's 15% maximum unassigned fund balance policy. That percentage is currently 12.7%. It is important to notice, while the fund balance declined in 2025, the unassigned fund balance continues to build. Last year, that was 7.5% compared to almost the 13% this year. Once the city gets closer or meets that 15% maximum threshold, more funds will be available to commit and assign to future projects. So the city is working towards that ability as they go. The main reason for the decline in 2025 is that a large portion of the 2024 assigned fund balance was reserved for the 2 Lincoln Street renovation. That amount was $2.8 million last year. So it was the city's intent really to show a large reduction in fund balance in 2025 with that project now being completed. The 2025 general fund operations resulted in a decrease in total fund balance of $1,876,000. That's compared to a fund balance increase of $3.5 million in 2024. The city has a very minimal annual debt service requirement in the general fund, and it has cash flow, and it has the cash flow and fund balance strength to plan for renovations such as the 2 Lincoln Street renovation without having to incur additional long-term debt. The proprietary funds are the business funds, which are meant to be self-sustaining based on rates charged to the rate users or utility users. All of the funds in the proprietary fund financial statements had a positive increase in net position for 2025. The city has made a consistent, responsible effort in moderately increasing rates for all 3 utilities on an annual basis to avoid potential reductions in net position, and which is helpful, not having to have those annual increases are important because you don't have to have one substantial increase if you go 5 to 10 years without rate increases on an annual basis, which we're seeing a lot of municipalities having to deal with lately, especially since 2021 with inflation cost adjustments. The EJRP is also included in that proprietary fund financial statement, and that shows income of just under $300,000 in 2025. Moving into the footnotes, they basically show a more detailed descriptions and fund balance assignments of the information in the footnotes, or in the financial statements, I'm sorry. There's capital asset schedules and debt summaries that show the activity year over year in comparison to 2024. There is one new format for in the footnotes for the compensated absences. This is due to an accounting change for governmental entities referred to as GASB 101. Overall, with that change, there was not a prior period adjustment that was required. Internally, management now has to accrue for items such as payroll taxes related to future payouts of compensated absences, and that amount was fairly minimal overall and considered immaterial, so it was all posted to the current year. The required supplementary information and the other supplementary information is also more detailed schedules. The budget to actual comparison is helpful for the voters or for the council to see how actual financial results compared to the budget in 2025. And then the supplementary information is the balance sheets and changes in net position of all the various smaller funds within the city government. That is all I have, and I'd like to open it up for any questions.
Jess, do you have anything you wanted to add?
Nothing to add except that it was awesome to have a dedicated space for the auditors to be set up for a whole week this year. Another major bonus to the renovation project. And it made the whole week just much smoother. It helped obviously to have them on site this year instead of being remote as well. And if we've got the finance team is kind of settling into a groove. We are working really well with Bill and his team. We had one new person on the audit this year and things were pretty seamless with that. So
Great.
It really helps too, obviously being on site. I think it was 2 years in a row with the renovations here and having to do a remote audit, but Jess and Shannon and the rest of the team are very helpful and accommodating. Regardless of whether we're on site or working remotely. Because obviously after the audit, there's plenty of follow-up questions and the responsiveness from the staff. It's always a great experience.
Glad to hear. We're excited to have it open too, so. Any counselor comments? I'll start in the room.
Nothing from Elaine or I.
Or me.
You good?
I said or me.
Okay. So nothing. This audit report is phenomenal and outstanding, and took me a little while to get through because it's a lot of numbers and a lot of information. But I think if there's no concern from anyone, there's no concern from us, and it looks like we're plugging along in the right direction.
Yeah, another well done to staff for a clean report with no findings. It's a great job.
And that's the other thing I'd like to mention too. Every audit we're not looking for the negative, but that's what our job is, to make sure things are being reconciled and actually accurately reported. And there were very minimal adjustments that we propose, certainly nothing material. So really the reflection of what you receive on a monthly basis and budget to actual schedules and the financials that are provided during meetings are relatively very accurate.
Appreciate that.
Thanks to
Marcus.
Jess and her team.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you,
Marcus,
Jess.
do you have anything?
Yeah, only because you brought it up. But again, congrats to the team. Thank you so much for the effort in this audit. As usual, I'm not surprised based on, again, the history here. This team has been solid in order to deliver precise numbers and doing it in a process and procedure that is, A+. So again, congrats to the team. But since you brought it up, I'm just curious, can you give like an example of an immaterial adjustment that you would make?
So for the audit, each fund has a materiality threshold, which we don't tell the client. But it's based off of whether it be total assets on the balance sheet or total revenues. And if we come across something, I off the top of my head don't remember exactly, but if, for example, a perfect example is going through accounts payable and we find a check that was cut in September or August and it should be posted back to accounts payable. We would propose an adjustment to management and say, hey, this should be in accounts payable. Would you like us to make an adjustment for it? If it's over the materiality thresholds required, we would have to make the adjustment or report it otherwise. Otherwise, if it's not material, we can pass on it. And then at that point, we track the immaterial adjustments, is what we call them, that we're proposing, and ensure that at the end of the audit, in total, the adjustments that management does not want to make don't materially misstate the financial statements.
Awesome. Thank you for that insight. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
you're welcome.
Go ahead, Jess.
I'll just add to that, Marcus, for a little more information on ours specifically. This year's adjustments were mostly related to fixed assets, and partly because we have an invoice, for example, that will get split between the program fund and EJRP and the general fund, and we just need to move it to one spot. You can't have an asset existing in two different places. So most of our adjustments over the years tend to be fixed asset related or the GASB 68, so the compensated absences entries. And this year, because it was a new rule, or there was a new rule, there was some back and forth with the audit team when they were on site on how to calculate it, because it was new for all of us and we were all trying to figure out precisely what that method should be. So all of the audit entries that we received so far to date have also been conversations with the audit team, and we are in alignment with everything that is brought to us.
Great. Thanks, Jess. I will open it up for public comment if there is any. Any in the room?
Nope. Doesn't appear to be anything in the room.
I am not seeing anything online, so Bill, you are free to enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you very much.
Thank
everyone.
you very much for
Yeah.
coming in.
See you next year.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, next up, we got item 5B, which is an update from the Planning Commission, and I do see Elijah.
Hi.
Hey, Elijah.
1 second. Make sure I don't miss anything.
Feel free to take it away whenever you're ready.
All right, I appreciate it, Amber. I am Elijah Massey. I am the chair of the Essex Junction Planning Commission. And I am here tonight to provide you an update on the Planning Commission's work over the last 12 months and coming attractions, as well as answer any questions that the council may have pertaining to anything related to the Planning Commission. Much of this will be familiar to the council, I recognize, because you have been intimately involved in much of the work that the commission has been engaged in the past year, and also are aware of other things due to the regular communication between our two groups. However, I do just for the city audience in general, want to just note that throughout 2025, the Planning Commission focused on a number of different initiatives and efforts related to a broad host of issues across our community related to such diverse subjects as housing and transportation and infrastructure. We had the opportunity, which we were very appreciative of, to work with the council on a number of occasions and a number of joint meetings on our joint work, and those opportunities for collaboration and shared dialogue were sincerely appreciated by the commission. In terms of the actual work and initiatives themselves, the commission kind of began our year kind of wrapping up the work from the prior year, which related to updates to the Land Development Code. We had a number of different kind of one-off adjustments that we were working on. It wasn't the full land development code update, but there were a couple of interesting and different pieces of the code that Chris, our planner, had identified as good opportunities to address and to update. So we were kind of wrapping that up, including such subjects as signage and language related to junk regulations. Then we moved from there. We moved for the majority of the year. Much of our work was focused on the Connect the Junction transit-oriented development master plan work, which the council was well aware and very engaged in, particularly the public outreach portions, which we really appreciated. Generally, that was work with a consultant to identify a framework around looking at the city in order to specifically around development in a transit-oriented corridor of the city, which primarily included the historic village center and the Pearl Street corridor out to the west. The work around that planning process included engaging with the consultant on both kind of initial conversations, drafting the plan, a series of public engagements in a variety of formats, both online and in person throughout the summer. The draft plan came back. There was a lot of information, a whole host of recommendations, but a couple of key areas that had been identified as particularly salient or valuable for attention and additional public input, which then occurred, which ultimately culminated in the Planning Commission late last year making a recommendation to Council to adopt the plan with some adjustments, which then you went on to do. And now we are looking forward to the consultant finalizing that plan, which will include some form-based code recommendations that will then guide additional Planning Commission work in terms of moving forward with beginning to implement the plan that is will soon be in process instead of in draft. So that the work around that transit-oriented development master plan work, I would say over the course of the last 12 months was the major effort by the Planning Commission, but was interspersed and related to several other work areas, including work around the Pearl Street Road Diet, which was a separate project but interrelated and dovetailed nicely with much of the work and kind of subject matter that the transit-oriented development master plan was looking at. So we were able to move that project forward a bit and inform that work with the work that was going on with the transit-oriented development work. We also had the opportunity to engage with the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission around Act 181 through a series of engagements looking at that Act's efforts to review and draft new regional maps, largely around the new housing targets that have come down from the state. And so there were both engagements around the commission understanding and kind of digesting the Act, understanding the Regional Planning Commission's initial assessment and proposed targets, both for the county writ large and then specifically for our municipality, and then going on to review, based on the commission and other feedback, the actual proposed map that is now, I believe, still in process of kind of being finalized, but in relation to Act 181, that will then become the updated land use map that is for the county, but will include our municipality. Related to that work, the city is also fortunate to have been selected in a related kind of infill housing project, 802 homes, that is the state is managing. I believe that the city of Essex Junction is one of 3 communities where they are working, I'm sure you're aware, to identify parcels and test designs for infill housing in order to create essentially a catalog of a set number of designs that the intent would be able for municipalities, that would align with municipalities' zoning and regulatory requirements in order to have designs that would be able to be adopted by landowners in order for municipalities to accelerate and streamline the approval of infill housing. So kind of the missing middle piece of our national, state, and very local housing challenges. That project continues to be ongoing, and the commission will continue to work on that in the coming year. Other work that the commission engaged in kind of episodically or on an ad hoc basis throughout the year included both the multimodal improvements to the train station, bus station, as well as revisions to the design for the pocket park at 1 Main Street. We also have been engaged and then kind of passed it off to a subcommittee, essentially, which includes Amber. The city applied for a grant through the Vermont Arts Council, which is a planning grant, design grant, that is planning a mural for a wall of the fire station. That project continues to move forward positively and is exciting. We just have collected a lot of input from city students and are, as well as have received input or interest from a number of Vermont artists, and are looking to make a selection of those artists to produce a little bit more targeted material to then push out to city residents to see what type of design they might prefer. And then more recently, in which we anticipate to kind of dominate the coming year, the Planning Commission has re-engaged with the process of updating the comprehensive plan, which we do every 8 years, understanding that the process is going to take more than a year. We had our initial meeting with the consultant selected to assist us in that process, which is, again, CCRPC, who we're fortunate to work with on that. We had a very productive meeting earlier this month, kind of orienting those of us who haven't been part of a comprehensive plan update to that process and kind of setting the roadmap for the months ahead. So again, looking ahead to the next year, we will be finalizing and incorporating the work around the TOD master plan. I believe our next meeting will be focused on a conversation on the form-based code recommendations coming down from the consultant, but then the majority of this next year we anticipate to be focused on the comprehensive plan and working with CCRPC on those updates and engaging with the public and yourselves regularly throughout that process. With that, I'll wrap up my synopsis and open it to any questions or comments from the commission.
Thanks, Elijah. That was very in-depth. Appreciate it. Any questions for Elijah in the room?
Yeah, Elijah, thank you. I can't remember a time when the planning commission was just so busy it's been a long time since the planning commission's had such a full plate, and you guys are doing a fantastic job, so thank you. And thank you, Chris, for supporting them as they do that. Just wanted to say thank you for that. Just a quick question about the comprehensive plan process. Since it's every 8 years, the residents probably don't remember that that's an 8-year process. And in the past, I remember residents coming to either council meetings or trustee meetings or planning commission meetings with issues about development or projects that are happening, and the shovels are going in the ground at that time, like next door to their house or down the street, and like, why wasn't I involved in this process? And so any effort that we can do to ensure that residents know that this is the comprehensive plan is when you can start literally saying, this is what we want our neighborhood to look like. The more you can do to make that clear to folks, I think would be really beneficial to the process as a whole.
Thank you for that observation, Elaine. Much of our initial conversation with CCRPC was already around talking about that subject of public engagement.
That's great.
And kind of, we have, the conversation is to be continued, but already we're talking about what experiences have we had, at least in the recent past, with public engagement, where are some of the challenges that we've identified, and how can we leverage CCRPC's broader experience and focus in order to inform and improve and expand the public engagement piece of the process, which, as you point out, is so critical, and this is the opportunity for all of our community to engage with the process and the plan and get their input incorporated.
Thanks.
Tim or Brian?
And everything.
I'm good. I appreciate it. It's very, very detailed. And again, you're very, very busy. So I will put a plug in for the 802 homes, because there is a workshop February 7th of an EJRP, 71 Maple Street, 7th at 4 p.m. So there's information on the city's website about that. And I know that Terry was posting flyers around town. So you might run into one of those. So if you're interested in infill, and it might be something for your property, it might be worth looking at for you. And that is all I have.
Thanks, Tim. Marcus?
No, Brian, go for it.
I'm just reading from the city's website where it says infill housing.
Marcus?
Thank you. And again, thank you for all the work you guys are doing. I really do appreciate it. And it makes a definite impact, not just in the now, but in the long-term future of the city. So it really is very much appreciated. Thinking about the forms-based process or coding that you're going to be looking at and reviewing, are you going to be doing this all at once? Are you prioritizing certain portions of the LDC to go after first? How are you kind of taking on this project? Because as I recall from the plan, there could be a lot of bits and pieces to this.
Marcus, and I apologize, I'm not sure how we are going to approach it, because it will at least initially be based on the consultant's recommendation and their draft updates, which we haven't seen yet. So more to come. We can certainly circle back if the council is interested specifically in how the planning commission determines with the city staff's support to kind of tackle that process. And if there is interest in, we would welcome your input in terms of, once we have an approach and identified kind of portions of the LDC, if it is going to be kind of a staggered or a kind of a triaged approach, for your input on that.
No, I appreciate that. And I also recognize that a portion of it is also going to be education for the community, since this is not the type of code that we have done in the past. This is so there's going to be a little bit of education that goes along with this process, not just our own review and then decisions as to whether or not it gets added. So, but I appreciate that. So I'm not sure that it's necessary for that, but I will leave it to us to probably have a conversation about maybe at some other time about that. Just because of the fact that I'm happy to watch your meetings and then observe how you've all decided to tackle it and follow it from there. So thank you.
Certainly. And just since we're giving shout outs, as engaging as I'm sure our meetings may appear, I will give a shout out to the minute taker and the recorder. For the general public who might be listening or see the transcript here, if you have the time, please do watch our conversations. But the agendas, especially once approved, provide a really good synopsis for everyone across our community to kind of keep up with the Planning Commission and the subjects we're engaged with.
Elijah, is there anything that you need from us to do your work? I mean, we'll continue to look at joint meetings when necessary, because I think they are helpful. I'm sure there will be one in the near future, but I can't think of it right now. But anything else that you need from us?
Thank you, Amber. No, I think if we can continue the collaboration that we have, there has been the intention to have the type of increased communication and collaboration that we have jointly achieved in the last year for a long time. I recognize that, but certainly the Planning Commission has really appreciated the council's availability and engagement over the past year, and if we can just continue that momentum, that would be excellent. We have sincerely appreciated, in addition to that, just on an individual basis, as councilors' availability has allowed your engagement in the public engagement opportunities, and assisting the commission in raising awareness and the public's attention to different parts and pieces of work that the commission is doing before it comes, across your desk for approval, is very much appreciated. And along the theme of public engagement, any opportunity, including from the councilors, to raise awareness around the subjects that the commission is discussing and grappling with that do pertain to our entire community is very much appreciated. I think there is discussion, just thinking specifically around the comprehensive plan, of the possibility of forming a few subcommittees. Nothing concrete yet, but there is already discussion around increased opportunities for interested members of the public to engage in that process for specific areas of the plan that may either interest or community members may have experience. And so potentially just continuing to support the Planning Commission in, should they become available, raising awareness or making recommendations about potential members would be an amorphous but potential coming attraction that we might seek the council's support for.
Sure. You know where to find us. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the work. And I'm sure we'll be seeing you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you very much.
All right, next up, we got 5C, Annual Tree Farm Management Group Presentation. bring the whole crew up to the table here. If you guys wouldn't mind introducing yourself, I mean, that would be great.
All right, so evening all. Introductions, like you said. So Erin Stewart at the back there. Erin is the Essex United representative on the Tree Farm board, and he's also now our new board president. Maria Godlowski, she is our secretary and is the Burlington Rugby Club representative. Giles Willey is our treasurer, and he is the Vermont Soccer Association rep. And then James Gowdy, I'm the vice president for the Tree Farm board and the Nordic rep on the board. So here tonight to kind of give you a recap as to what last year, 2025 at the Tree Farm, and then also upcoming projects. 2025 basically was a good year for us financially. We had $262,000 in income, $221,000 in expenses, so $41,000 net profit. We had 3,482 user hours throughout the year, which is an increase of 225 hours from 2024. And we continue to diversify our users at the Tree Farm. We're at 6 sports right now. We've got cross country out there, football, which has really expanded. We've got a jamboree, and they continue to have a good time out there, and it continues where we're getting more. We actually left football fields out there permanently throughout the fall. So the previous year just been a one-time weekend jamboree, and then we extended that into where we're starting to have more regular season football games out there. Frisbee, lacrosse, rugby, and then soccer. So those are the 6 main users at the Tree Farm last year. Improvements that we went through last year. So we've continued to work with Don Weston. Giles knows Don, and if you've ever driven down the parking lot and the entrance to the Tree Farm, it's interesting. And so we work with Don Weston now, where he comes in 4 times a year, at various times throughout the year, and it's very dependent on weather and also upcoming tournaments and the schedule as to when he comes in. Obviously, it can't rain for however many weeks before or afterwards before he comes in. So the conditions need to be perfect for Don to come in. So we will continue to work with Don to hopefully maintain it, improve it, and get not only the entrance road but the parking area better than what it's been in previous years. We also got Don to come in and replace the wooden fencing. So I was joking about this at another presentation. I put those fences in myself in 2000 and something. So a lot of pain and work went into that. And so he ripped them all out in half a day. It was painful to see how quickly he ripped up all the fences. And if you've seen the parking lot on the right-hand side, when you first go in, there was rocks. And we've replaced them with rocks. So a lot more manageable and appealing to the eye as well than the fencing that was in there previously. Each year we budget for new goals at the Tree Farm. We've still got some goals there that are 20 years old. So we put it in our budget each year to replace 1 or 2 sets of goals per year. So we continue to do that. Fields is probably at the biggest piece that we need to improve on each year. So we just talked about improving the parking lot and the entrance. So last year we decided to rest a couple of fields. So we work with S&D. He's our landscaping contractor. And so we choose fields each year. We consult with Erin from S&D as to which fields need the most love / time off. And we're able to work with our field scheduler where we can give certain amounts of field 2-3 months. So last year we closed a couple of fields, 6 and 7, which are right there behind the barn. We closed them down until about the middle of June. And we actually did some sod replacements for the first time there as well. So Erin was able to purchase some sod and then staple it in. And then Giles and I were literally there every day watering those fields and getting that turf in. It worked for the first half of the year because if you remember, it was pretty wet in May and June. Then the second half of the year was complete opposite. So it was a challenge with that method, with the sodding. And then if ever you go back there, and Maria really appreciates this, Field 1, which is way back left by the cemetery, is our rugby field. And it had started to have some contours and what have you in there. So at Erin's suggestion, We closed it off in midsummer, and we reseeded. He came in, he flattened it out, and we reseeded it, and now it's the best looking field out there. Seed came in really good. Our initial goal was to have it back up online by late spring of 2026, but based on how well the seed came in, we should be able to open that field up pretty early. So as we look forward to 2026, we will be doing the same thing as well, identifying fields that need a bit of rest, need a bit of love, and whether it be reseeding or resodding, taking care of those fields. Probably one of the most entertaining improvements we made at the tree farm, and I would highly recommend this to your Parks and Rec department, is we leased a robot to line our fields this year. So not only does it save on paint costs, but also on staff costs as well. And just from a visual, it's the straightest those lines have ever been. Robot never complains about being tired or the heat or the cold. He gets out there and does his job. So, you know, we've got a 2-3 year agreement with the robot.
Singular year because it's a lease,
right,
or subscription. So there's no capital commitment.
Yeah, so that was a huge improvement from our perspective, was getting that in, because like I said, and you know, we've got multiple sports in there, so we can easily move fields around. Just Giles goes in there, GPS links it up to a satellite, and you put the fields down very easy. So huge improvement from our perspective. And then lastly, we've added field sponsors at the tree farm. So we had 9 field sponsors last year. We've got a total of close to 20 fields, I think, total, with the way the fields can be divvied up. So that'll be our goal each year, is to increase on the amount of field sponsors that we bring in there. Projects for 2026, like I said before, new goals. You know, like I said, we've still got 1 or 2 more sets of goals that need replacing, plus the nets. We'll identify with S&D which fields need to be rested up. We will continue to work with Western on the grading. We're going to re-establish our connection with CTE, so they come in and do some work on the tree line. So as you go into the tree farm, the first 2 rows of trees, one of their projects that they did, I think in the fall of 24, was they came in and cleared out all the undergrowth that was in there. There was poison ivy in there. If a kid's soccer ball went in there, it was gone. You know, we'd have kids in the dark till 9 o'clock at night trying to find their ball. But he came in and cleared it all out with the CTE students, did a fantastic job. So our goal is, we've still got 2 more rows of hedge lines that need to be cleared. They're on board with it. They love it because it's a great project for their students. So it's a win-win for both. Giles is working with CVE. Have you ever seen the Dust Bowl sometimes when it doesn't rain? We talked about the parking lot and the main road in there. So CVE have got a sprayer with a chemical that you can spray down, and it will improve the dust cloud that comes up there. So those are our goals for 2026. And then the other thing I hear is, you know, we've got a 4+1 lease with the 2 municipalities, so we appreciate that, and we look forward to working with both municipalities going forward.
Thank you. I have a quick question for you. We got the tree farm operations plan in our packet, and it looks like you guys decreased your budget for revenue this year. Any thoughts as to why you did that?
It's easy to budget on the plus side, and if we get more, great. Historically, our revenue is closer to what we budget, what you see for the 2026 budget. And like this year, we had some additional tournaments that came in and provided revenue that we didn't know we were going to get. It just inflated our
Pardon me, real quick, sorry to interrupt. Giles, can you pull close to the microphone so that people can hear you better?
I've never been accused of having a light voice. All right. So what part of that didn't you hear, Marcus? The whole thing?
I heard it. It was just a little difficult to hear.
Okay.
You know,
So again, we had some new users in the system that provided revenue. This year, we have a rather large new user. It's an adult soccer tournament. It's going to be a 5-day tournament. And it looks, I haven't seen the actual signed contract, but that would add a net roughly of $25,000 It would bring in 35, but because 2 of the days are normal rental days, the Essex United, Nordic, all the rest of the player, the Elite 8 and 11s, so it would displace them. It's a $35,000 contract, but it would net out as an additional $25,000 roughly.
Above and beyond.
Above and beyond, yes, above and beyond. What you see in this budget does not include that. So again, it's nice to come in at the end of the year with some additional revenue that you didn't anticipate, especially if it's net revenue. The other thing on the road is when Weston comes in, they are adding crushed asphalt. So last year we got, in 2025, we got 14 loads of crushed asphalt. And so they dig it up with the grader, and then they blend in some of that crushed asphalt, and then the roller comes behind. It makes not only does it make the road better, but it reduces the dust cloud that comes about. So we won't have to use as much calcium chloride to reduce those. So a couple of years ago, the fire department got called because the old Colchester Road resident thought there was a fire. Well, it was just dust when 8 o'clock, I was over there closing the gate. It looked like a fire. And so hopefully over time we'll be able to we're started with the circle and the entrance, and we'll try to fill that gap plus some of the parking area as well.
So just to go back, so just to confirm, you guys are not anticipating any loss in revenue, you're just being conservative.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's a difference with us. We don't really have a capital fund versus an expense side, more like a general fund. And so what you'll see in our budget is it took us 2.5 years, probably 3 years, to get back to where we were we had a little issue with our tax issue. Mm-hmm. And it cost us 60 grand, which is just money that went out the door. So it took us this year, we're getting almost back to where we were 4 years ago in terms of a cash position. That cash position then puts us in a place where we could make capital improvements and not have it affect our operations. So we are expense heavy from, say, March, April timeframe. We have no revenue coming in, but we have contracts with S&D, contracts with our scheduler and so forth. And so it costs us about 30 grand before we start seeing revenue. And now we're in a cash position where we're not, saying, okay, we got to check here, we got to pay this, and you're just balancing who's robbing Peter, to whatever that saying is. So I would say conservatively, because that's how we budget, when somebody looks at a net revenue of, say, $1,000 versus $34,000, that's not really true, because we're including in there CapEx as well.
Okay. Thanks. Marcus?
Yes, I'm not, and Giles, I'm sorry, I just have to follow up on it to say, I'm still not sure that I understand the conservatism here and how it plays out, because of the fact that if there's no expectation, now you said that you've got one potentially out there that could bring in $25,000 to $35,000. But you don't expect that there's actually any revenue decrease year over year. I would think from a budgetary standpoint, you at least budget the same revenue than year over year, because you had that expectation that there's no change. And I'm not saying you should add 25 to 35, but it seems like to decrease it by 11,000, what it looks like to me when I look at a budget that's structured like this, it looks like either business has been lost or rates have decreased. And I just want to understand how this is impacting this revenue, because again, like you said, you've still got the same stuff year over year. You might have something new, but to be conservative and lose $11,000 in revenue, I don't know, the logic just doesn't quite work out for me. So I guess I just want to follow up and say, can you give me a little bit more to help me understand how we get there? Thanks.
Doing like any budget, history plays a big role. And historically, so 2025 was our best ever by $20,000. So historically, I have to look at that and say, or we have to look at that and say, well, is it more likely that we're going to be like every other year prior to 2025, or is it more likely that we're going to be 2025 plus? And I'd like to see it happen 2 years in a row before we start thinking it's a routine revenue projection. So again, because all of our money goes into one pot, I think it would be wrong to say we're going to get $262,000 in revenue, not really knowing that historically it's close to that. So historically it's been more like 235, 240. And I'd rather come to this meeting saying we have $20,000 extra and we made these 10 things better than I have to come here and say, well, we lost 20 grand and we don't know if we're going to survive next year. Right? That's a much easier conversation, the former. So that's just my conservative approach.
And I appreciate that. Thank you. That actually helps clear that up. So in future, if you don't mind, then what I would ask is if you can provide that historical context, because if we saw what the budget was for last year, not just the actual, but if we also saw the budget and maybe the actuals for the previous, whatever it is, so that again, we can visually see that that's a part of this decision process, and that's how we got there. So thank you. I appreciate that.
So just for everybody, the document that this budget document that we have gets published, I think, Maria, correct me if I'm wrong, it gets published to both the town and the city at the end of every month. And so this budget is a piece of that document. So if you ever, or if you just want to have a conversation offline, or the council wants to have this filed, it's easy to give you. And so we did for our, I don't know, 2 years ago, I think it was, we gave both entities a 5-year history of what the budget was, what the actuals were. And we can continue to do that and just have it going for 6, 7, 8, 10 years, whatever it is, just have it as a living document that can be provided to both groups.
It might be helpful. We can talk about it. I can talk about it offline with the city manager, but it might be helpful for maybe every couple of months or so, just to kind of get that in our packet. We do like a section that has all of the minutes and stuff, where just to put it in there so that we kind of have an update as to where you guys are at. And it does give us an opportunity to reach out and say, hey, we've got some questions on this. And either invite you into a meeting or have a sidebar conversation with you guys offline. But we'll get back to you on that piece if that's something we want to do. Any questions in the room?
I don't necessarily have a budgetary question, but can I go back to the field sponsorship? I feel like this would be a good time for the dozens of people that are going to watch this later on YouTube to maybe put a plug in there for field sponsorship and what it entails and who to contact and how to go about that.
Mike Nick is our, he is the adult league person. There's a Elite 8, Elite 11, what's the?
But Giles, the best way probably is the contact on our brand new website.
Oh, there you go.
People can go there and request someone from the tree farm. We have a new brand new contact form, and somebody can write, and we will, within short order, get back.
So they can visit the tree farm website and get the contact. Okay, great, thanks. I just
we'll put it to the right party.
Put a plug in there for that if you have 11 fields that are still looking for sponsors. Other than that, I don't think there's anything in the room.
Okay, great. Do you guys have anything else, or?
That's it.
No? Okay. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thought Marcus had a question, but he was just waving. All right, so we're moving on to 5D, which is discussion and consideration of CCRPC, UPWP applications and match, and that is way too many initials in one sentence. Take it away. Whoever, is this Chris? Okay.
The draft application for this year's UPWP process. There are 5 items there. There's GIS services and short-term planning office support, professional equity policy advisor services, speed studies related to the new traffic calming policy, turning movement counts at the 5 corners, and a 5 corners traffic operations feasibility and modeling study. I think that's the only one that's kind of that's a larger one there, other than the equity policy services, which has already been it's already in the budget, and I mean Regina could say more about it, but it's just a continuation of what was done last year. The other items here are kind of just smaller things that we have done in the past, or they are able to provide at no cost to the city. I guess I'll point out that item 3, speed studies related to the traffic calming study. This is I realize that the CCRPC is able to provide some speed studies for municipalities at no cost, and I know that the police department already is able to do that, but they have staffing constraints, and with the new traffic calming policy, there's a potential for a need for more capacity in that front. So it's nice to be able to access more resources to be able to do that. But the details are in here. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Marcus and sorry. Oh, Regina, did you want to add?
Yep. Just want to add that, so this is, you hear us talk quite a bit about work that CCRPC ends up doing for us and partnering with them on a variety of things. So this is a annual process that we go through every single year. CCRPC essentially solicits needs from all of their member municipalities. And it's our opportunity to put in these requests. They go through a process through April to be able to figure out what they can fit in their program and what they can't. They also run a variety of different programs, some of which require a match, some of which do not require a match. And some of it is straight fee-for-service work. Some of it is supported really by federal highway funds that go through the Metropolitan Planning Organization here in Chittenden County. Outside of Chittenden County, most of this work on the transportation planning side happens through the state, because we are the only region that has a Metropolitan Planning Organization. So just want to give a little bit of that background and let you folks know that this is sort of, on some things, almost the initial starting point of getting further technical information to see what we may move to a capital project and implement somewhere down the road. So hopefully that's helpful. And it is a little confusing that the equity work is on here because it's already a go. It's moving, it's happening. But it's helpful for them to just get kind of the complete list of everything that's going on through this process, so they can just works easier for them to work out their work plan every year.
Marcus, any questions, comments?
No, we've had so many conversations around these particular topics that I don't have any specific questions, and I do support this moving forward. So thank you.
Any questions, comments in the room?
Chris, are the, if I may?
Yep.
Just so I understand, I love that we're asking CCRP to help out with the speed studies. Obviously, the traffic calming is the request I get most often from constituents. Is the idea here is that we're trying to get CCRP to add 3 additional speed studies over the current bandwidth of EPT?
Yes.
Great. And are they going to use their equipment or ours? Because it's my understanding that the city owns the equipment to do this that EPT uses within the city.
This would be CCRPC's equipment.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Tim, Elaine?
I'm good.
Okay. I will open up for public comment if there is any. I think your room cleared out, right? You got no public.
There's no one left in the room. I was kind of
Okay.
paused to see if Risa had her hand up.
Yep, I am watching online. I don't see any hands up, so there is a recommended motion if somebody would like to do that.
Move that the city council authorize staff to submit the UPWP request applications as presented.
Can I get a second?
Second.
I
think Marcus got it.
Yep. You could take the next one. Brian, you get the next one. Okay, so all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Chris.
Chris.
Okay, so 5E, discussion and consideration of warning the first and second public hearings for the proposed charter changes for councilor stipends and a charter review committee. Regina.
Okay, so this is page 111 in the PDF packet. So essentially at the December 10th meeting, you had the governance committee provide their recommendations to you. And what you've got in front of you now are the actual verbiage of how to move those recommendations forward to the voters if you so choose to do so tonight. Also, because these are charter changes, or some of them are charter changes, there is a two-process public hearing process that works with charter changes. Yeah. So if you're ready to move these forward tonight, the motion also includes warning those public hearings. So essentially, these should be fairly straightforward here. The first one is talking about the councilor stipends. And so in the memo, we included what the current language in the charter says. Essentially, the council members can increase the compensation through the normal budget process. And that has happened since this charter was first approved. So the charter language includes $1,500 a year. The recommendation is to go from what the stipends currently are today, $2,500, to $3,600. So the tricky thing on that one is if the question is a charter change question, it's going to be worded as changing $1,500 to $3,600, which I think it just has the potential of being confusing because that's not actually the real change. The change is $2,500 to $3,600. So there's an option here to ask that as an advisory question as opposed to an actual charter change, which would at least make that difference more clear to the voters. Beyond that, you've got the questions in here that would be a charter change. For the council president to have 25% higher compensation. So you see that added language there. So that would be a charter change question. Then beyond that is the annual adjustment of the stipends. So that is included there under Article 4. And just to be clear, I included article numbers in here just so that you can follow along. Those may not those don't necessarily are the articles that land in the ultimate ballot. Then there's the recommendation to require a comprehensive charter review every 12 years. And so that recommendation is there for you. There's an option under that Article 5 question as well. The second option brings a little bit more detail in terms of what this charter change committee would do. The one above is a bit more simple. This can happen every 12 years, and it is specifically says at least 12 years. This is not limiting the city's option to look at the charter and make changes more frequently along the way if needed. Okay, so I think that's all I wanted to hit.
So I would say let's start with questions, and then we can go back and kind of go through each article to figure out whether we want option A or what's behind door number 2. So any generic questions on these proposals?
Nothing from the room, it appears.
Okay, Marcus? Okay. All right, so the first one is whether we're going with an advisory option or a charter change option for Article 2, which is the increase in compensation. Anybody feel strongly about one way or the other?
Yes.
Okay, which way?
So I support the version of the advisory because again, we need less confusion, not more confusion. So
Yeah, I can get on board with that. Is everyone okay with it? Brian?
Look, our residents are looking at higher costs everywhere: housing costs, utilities, taxes. You know, many are making difficult choices just to stay afloat. So consequently, I find it pretty tone deaf for us to try to increase our own stipends by 44%, and that's over the 25, not the 15. So I think it's important that we hold ourselves to the same standard of discipline and frugality that we asked the city departments when we put together this budget. I believe that public service, especially at the local level, should be grounded in civic duty and not compensation. So if we reach a point where the council truly limits, the pay truly limits who can serve, that's a conversation worth having. But we haven't had an uncontested city trustee or city council election since 21. So I don't think that we're at that point. So right now, I think this is the wrong message to send to our community. I don't support putting any of these on the ballot. Thanks.
So you don't, just to be clear, Brian, you're not in support of putting any of the proposed changes?
The pay
the money
ones on the one. Yep. I think the charter change one we probably should have started with because that was easy.
Okay. Well, we're gonna stick with just what is labeled as Article 2 on our memo for now. So I hear you're not in favor of adding it to the ballot at all. So I got your vote. Marcus would like it to be an advisory option. I'm on the side of an advisory option. Elaine, Tim?
Advisory.
Okay. So
can I also though, I just want to throw this in, and Brian, I hear you and I agree with you, but at the same time, I want to respect the residents of our community that participated in our governance committee and put forth this recommendation. At this particular time, I am in agreement that I am not necessarily in support of raising that stipend for us. But at the same time, the residents asked us to put this forth. So that's why I'm choosing to go ahead and do that. And I just want to make sure that if we do it, we do it with the least amount of confusion possible. So in this particular way, I'm going to say, that advisory. So thank you.
The last piece of Article 2 says compensation paid to the council members shall be set by the voters at an annual meeting with a minimum of each year. Council members' compensation must be set forth as a separate item in the annual budget presented by the meeting. Council members may choose to forego the compensation or a portion of the compensation. So that is always an option for anyone.
And I do want to state for the record that I already give 50% of my stipend to straight to Ann Tots. So again, it's not about money, it's about public service, and 44% is quite a big raise.
Thanks, Brian. I think, when we did this original charter amendment, I think there was some conversation about increasing compensation at that point, and we calculated based on the amount of meetings, et cetera, that we're making like $2 a meeting. So nobody's doing this to get rich, and I just want to say I agree with everything that's been said. This for me is not about, I've never asked for raise. I don't want to raise. But I do respect the fact that we had members of our community who spent a lot of time looking at these issues. And so I think it's best to allow the voters to weigh in on this, and they can vote it down. They can vote it down. So I am hearing a 4-1 for putting this on the ballot, Article 2 as an advisory option.
Correct.
So I am going to move on to Article 3, which I do not believe that is annual compensation for the president. Again, I know you're not in favor of this, Brian. I heard you. Is everyone else? There's no real question, because that's just the language. Is there any questions about the language? Otherwise, Article 3 is.
My
Go on.
comments still stand from the last conversation. So, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Article 4 then is the annual adjustment. Again, that one doesn't, let me go back. Yep, nope, there's no decision on that one. It's just a straight, this is what's going on the ballot. And then Article 5, which is the charter review, that has an option A or option B. I guess it would probably make more sense from my perspective to go with the more verbose, but open to thoughts. Not really sure what the difference, I guess it just lays out scope, timeline, membership. Is that really what you're thinking, Regina? That it kind of, okay. You guys.
I don't know if I don't know that it matters. I don't know that there's much of a difference. For me,
No.
it seems simpler and easier to read with the first version than the second.
Okay.
So yeah, but I mean, because to write it in a verbose way, I understand if we're really trying to limit powers. And I don't believe that that's what we're attempting to do here. We're just we're just setting up the stage so that we at a later time can then establish said committee and move that process forward. And I think either way, we've got the latitude to define those things.
Okay. I can get on board with that. So option A. Anybody and everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we've got our items for the ballot here. So I'm just looking to see, there's a couple motions here. Does somebody want to read the motion about the public hearings?
Given that they're not all unanimous, they need to be broken up. They're kind of combined, was my read of them.
Well, the motion is about the dates, not.
It's about the public hearing.
Sorry, I went too far. Right.
Yeah, the motion's about the public hearing, and they're all going on the ballot. And so the public hearing would be for all of them. So I don't know that we need to do a separate, because we're not necessarily voting. Well, I mean, Regina, what is your thoughts? If we just do your motion that you've got in here to approve, to warn the first public hearing.
I mean,
we don't need to be specific in it.
I think it's fine to not be specific in it, but I do think the concept of warning the public hearing does mean that you're in favor of moving this forward through the process.
Yeah.
So I also think it would be fine to essentially split this out into two motions, one for what we're calling Article 5, a separate one for what we're calling Articles 2, 3, and 4.
That makes sense.
Okay, so before somebody does that motion, I will open it up to public comment if there's any public comment before we do that. And I'm not seeing any hands raised, so who wants to take a stab at a motion? Article 2? Started with Article 2? Marcus started?
Here,
I thought Regina suggested it was 2, 3, and 4 together.
yeah, I'll lump them together
Yeah.
that way. So I move that the city council warn the first public hearing for the proposed charter changes for Councilor Stipends, Article 2, 3, and 4, for February 25th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. And the second public hearing for the proposed charter changes for Councilor Stipends for March 11th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
No?
Nay.
Opposed? Okay, because we've got remote, we have to do a roll call. So, Elaine,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Brian,
Nay.
Marcus?
Nay.
And I'm a yes. Thank you. That passes 4-1. Hit us with your second one.
Oh, sorry. I move that the city council warn the first public hearing for the proposed charter change for a charter review committee for February 25th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. and the second public hearing for the proposed charter changes for a charter review committee for March 11th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m.
All in favor?
Aye.
No nays. That passes unanimously. Thank you, folks. Okay, we are moving on to 5F, which is discussion and consideration of warning the first and second public hearings for time and method of delivery of tax payments, also known as postmarks.
So again, this is a conversation that we also had on December 10th. This is the actual suggested language. If the council is interested in clarifying the time and method of delivery in the charter. I'll just explain this, as it's sort of confusing, but the memo probably says it more clearly than I'll say it right now. It is possible to also ask this question as a non-charter change question. Because as it's working right now, our charter is silent on time and method of delivery. And so therefore, we are reverting to state statute for the time and method component. Statute allows you to ask your voters to specify time and method. We could ask the voters to do that without actually making a charter change. I am not recommending that because going forth, it would be way easier for the city to keep track of what the time and method is if we just go ahead and put it in the charter, since all the other information about how you pay your taxes is in the charter. So what you've got in front of you is the question, if you want to put it on the ballot, for clarifying that physical delivery or electronic payment needs to get to the tax collector by close of business on those 2 dates that we collect taxes every year. Also, because the second section of the charter, the penalty section, we have recommended that you add the specific time and method of delivery to that section so it's clear when the penalties actually kick in.
Kind of unrelated, sort of, but how is there factored in there, like this year we're accepting tax payments on the 16th as opposed to the 15th? Like there's no, I mean, obviously this is not, you guys didn't touch this language. This is more just like a high level of like, how do we deal when those are on a weekend or a holiday, and move that, because I just don't see it in here. Just kind of curious.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's more just a matter of reality that there's no business happening on those days, and so naturally it reverts to the day after.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's even sort of explained generally in state statute or just kind of a given, of how we operate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions? Marcus?
So Regina, I hear you, and but I'm trying to think about, and I can't think of the example off the top of my head, because we've talked about these kinds of things before in terms of whether or not something should go into the charter or whether or not it should be a policy. And in conversations that we've had in the past, often we have said that we don't want that in the charter because of the fact that it locks us in. There's a time frame of process versus giving us flexibility. And, just like in the example, Amber, you just gave, if we put it in the charter, it's locked, set. There's nothing you can do about it, really.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's in there as a policy with, again, we still have the same groundwork or the same structure behind it, then I think it gives us the flexibility to adjust, whether it's a particular holiday date or something else that comes along, but we can make those changes more fluidly versus forced into the process where it takes a year in order to really adopt it, have the state review it, have the state adopt it, blah, blah, blah. So I just want to put that out there as a question as to, I don't know if that's something that we are considering when we're talking about this recommendation and moving it forward.
So the only thing I'll say is that it's not that fluid because you still have to go to the voters. So this isn't
but we wouldn't necessarily have to do that in future if we needed to, move a date or if it's a policy that we've got in here, then we're just adjusting policies within versus going to the state to approve a charter that we are trying to change, which takes time.
different than an advisory question because this is state law and you either adjust that practice by putting it in your charter or the state statute stands. So, but you can also adjust it by your voters making the choice to adjust it. It doesn't have to live in the charter. So in my mind, the downside is that 20 years from now, everybody needs to still remember that this vote was taken in the year 2026. And it probably would because it would follow through all the processes and we would put it into practice. But it's not something that remains flexible.
But I'm saying, like, we could put this on as an advisory to the public coming up, but could we not then put it as a policy by which, again, it is in our own records, it's a place you can still go and see all of our process and procedures aside, or it must reside in the charter?
It's not a decision of the council. So that's the difference. Like in the previous discussion, we were talking about an advisory question in terms of more pay. Then it's up to the council to decide every single year that you do your budget, whether you're going to adjust that pay or not adjust that pay. This is a definitive question that needs to be decided by the voters, period. They either approve this change in practice or they don't, and that just lives as a vote on the record and we carry forth and do that, or we also codify that in the charter. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm helping answer your question.
No, I appreciate that. But to that particular point, though, if the vote, but we're going to give the voters the chance to vote on it. Are you suggesting though that if the voters vote on it, it then has to go in the charter versus the public votes on it and then we act upon it? You know what I'm saying? Because if the public votes on this postmark, right? It's a matter of, do we have to then put it? Because if the wording on the ballot is such that it is a charter change, yes, it's for the charter. But could we not put in there that you are voting on this policy? It's not an advisory, but it is a thing that they would still vote on. It's just a matter of like, is there a way to do this that doesn't then invoke us to have to go to the legislature, get the approval? Because that stuff just takes time. And so I'm just, if for whatever reason we need or want to change, at least it gives us a little more flexibility. I'm just saying it's not like what was it, when we changed for the approval, the voter approval on city meeting day, so that the council can make that decision, right? Like, could we not get the voters to approve or disapprove postmarks, and then we then act upon it similarly to that, versus it having to be a charter change itself?
The benefit of doing it that way, just asking the voters about this, would be that we could implement the change sooner. Because you wouldn't be waiting for the legislature to ultimately approve this change next year. That's in the pro column of doing it that way.
So for the voters, if we were to do it this way, then we could potentially impact their very next utility bills versus, or some other, versus it waiting till next year and then being implemented then, long after the time to which they voted or not voted this policy in.
Necessarily go to next year. We vote on it, it goes to the legislature, and they could conceivably take it up this session. It would be effective July 1st.
They could.
Yeah,
They
and we
didn't-
don't know for sure,
Yeah,
but it could.
it could. It's a little late because our annual meeting is after crossover
Late.
too.
Yeah.
Pretty
The
late.
charter changes tend to have a different schedule
Yeah.
than everything else there.
Yep. Our last charter changes weren't taken up until the next year, or didn't get through the process until the next year, I should say.
Any other questions in the room?
No, it doesn't appear so.
All right. Open it up to public comment. Risa?
Thank you. Every time we talk about a charter change, it feels like we're kicking the can down the road. Yes, it is possible the legislature will look at a charter change in the present year. We can't count on that. Right now, our voters, and we know this, they vote in April. They vote for the new budget. Then when they get their bill in August, they're like, oh my God, where did this increase come from? And that's only a few months later. So if we make a change that is changing the charter and it is more likely that it won't be reviewed by the legislature until the following year. No one's going to remember what we voted on this year for the future. Ideally, and what happens if the voters say, no, we do not want this? So then you have to come back and decide that you're going to accept postmarks, and how is that going to work? Having it be whether it is a policy based on the statute or referring to the statute, whatever, just sounds and feels so much cleaner than it being part of the charter, because of how it works with the legislature needing to approve everything. Thank you.
Thank you. If we approved it to go on the ballot as an advisory question, is there still the public hearings that are required?
For charter change.
Okay.
Yeah. I just want to still be clear, though. It's not advisory. This is not an advisory question one way or the other.
So it's going on the ballot either way, but it's
Policy change or a charter change.
yeah. Okay.
You're
So maybe I should just
assuming
word
that we
that
vote to do that now.
Yeah.
We have not yet decided to
Right.
put it on the ballot.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
Right.
so-
I'm just trying to get clarification still on the word we're using here. So, okay. So I can ask the question, are folks in favor of putting this on the ballot as a question? I'm not going to use the word advisory. I'm not going to use the word anything, just are folks in favor of putting this on the ballot and asking the question? Brian?
Yeah, my 2 cents, we should err on what's easier for the residents and not for staff. I love you guys, but I think what makes it easier is the postmark for residents. Unless it is swamping staff, which, and I asked this question in the last meeting, it doesn't seem to be that's the case. So my preference would be to not send this to the voters and go back to accepting postmarks. If we're going to send it to the voters, my 2 cents is that we should just send it to the voters to change the policy and not do a charter change so that we can implement it right away and not wait for Montpelier.
Okay. Tim?
Be in favor of putting this on as a policy question.
Same.
Elaine?
Same.
Okay. Marcus?
And I will say though that again, I don't want to have a back and forth, Brian, but I do just want to acknowledge that I hear you, and wouldn't it be great and easy if it worked the way it used to? But the fact that we can't count on a postmark and our residents can't count on a postmark being put on their mail because so much mail is being sent without, that it is not a reliable way to determine whether or not the resident was following the proper procedure and policy to meet the deadlines that have been set. And I would love for that to be clearer. But I think the clearest thing for anyone to do is to please use the facilities that we have locally available. And at the same time, we have had conversations before. I know that this isn't settled yet, but I hope that we'll continue to have conversations about the possibility of maybe some extended hours or something else that will help our residents to, have more accessibility during these key times.
Say something, but I would like to respond to that.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to point out an added concern that the U.S. Postal Service has recently come out with new guidance that postmarks are going to be on items at the time that they reach the postal facility and not at the time that they're going into the mailbox. And because there have been such delays in mail carriers, I think continuing to rely upon the postmark when the postal system is less reliable is not going to work out well for us. So that's another reason why we're looking into this, I think. or I think it kind of happened concurrently with this conversation.
Yep.
Yep. Brian?
I agree the post office is bad and getting worse. And I agree that change is going to be confusing for everybody. That's going to require some communication to residents, right? Now that said, this policy change, if adopted by the voters, doesn't change that task. There's going to be a policy change that we need to communicate to residents. And by the way, not all Essex Junction taxpayers, walk by this building. Like I have had, on the day that you want this mailed, or your ballots, or like Reese was bringing up, or your ballots, or your tax payments are mailed from South Dakota, right? Like they are if you are a bill payment customer at East Rise or Citizens, right? Then do you have to take some extra steps? Yes. Are you gonna have to take some extra steps under this change in policy? So I remain, my goal here is to make it easiest for taxpayers, right? So, and the easiest thing for taxpayers, no matter where they're located, no matter what they're doing between 9 and 5 on a business day, is to give them the flexibility of having a postmark if it takes them even if it takes an extra step to do that. That is what I believe the policy of the city should be. Thank you.
Somebody like to put forth a motion to put this item on the ballot as an advisory question? Or policy question. Policy, we'll use policy.
Charter policy question, that should cover.
There we go, that's a friendly amendment. Anybody?
Yeah, I will move that the city council warn the first. Wait a minute. I don't need the public hearing. Okay, so I move that the city council add to the ballot the question around the method of delivery of tax payments. I kind of had it in my head.
Non-charter policy.
Non-charter policy for the method of delivery of tax payments for this upcoming city meeting.
Sure.
Yeah.
That sounds reasonable.
Sorry.
Gina, does that make sense?
That works fine, because you're also gonna have to warn the annual meeting. So that official thing will come to you, and you'll see this again. But this is helpful for me that this vote happens, so we know if we're moving on this or not.
Okay. I'll take a second on that before I forget.
Second.
Okay, now all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
Okay. Roll call. Elaine?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Brian?
Nay.
Marcus?
Aye.
Aye. So it's 4-1. Okay, I think that's all we need for that section. Correct, Regina? Good? Okay. All right, moving on. Thank you, guys. 5G is discussion and consideration of an executive session for CVE contracts. So we're gonna skip past that and move on to the consent agenda. Take a motion. Thank you, Elaine.
I'll second.
Second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, that's unanimous. Council member comments and city manager report. Regina?
I don't have anything, actually.
Well, the good news is if there's anything comes to mind, we'll be back here next week.
Yeah. That's what the only thing I was thinking is there's a lot of council meetings was about to be all I was going to say.
For anybody who's paying attention, we'll be here next week at the same time, at the same place. Any counselor comments?
Appear to be any.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to move into executive session. And Elaine, do you want to do your?
To go into executive session, while I don't have a conflict of interest by definition, I will still recuse myself from this conversation for the appearance of a conflict of interest. Will you be coming back after the executive session? Okay.
We will not. Nope, so you get to go home early. All right, can somebody take the motions that are in the packet?
I move that the city council make the specific finding that premature disclosure of the contractual matters would place the city in a substantial disadvantage. I move that the city council enter into executive session to discuss a contract pursuant to 1 VSA 313A1A to include the city council and city manager.
A second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, that is unanimous. And we will see you all in executive session. Folks, thanks for joining us. And again, we'll see you here again next week.